Welcome, everyone. If you're a focused learner looking to really uncover the mechanics of serious wealth creation, you are in exactly the right place. In today's explainer, we're unpacking a fascinating source that outlines a multi-stage progression for building massive wealth through real estate investment. We'll be looking at everything from basic, entry-level tactics all the way up to absolute institutional dominance. So think of this as a complete strategic roadmap for transforming a single home into a diverse, incredibly powerful financial empire. Let's get into it.
I want you to think about something for a second. Who actually owns every single building you've ever stepped into? You probably don't think about it daily, but somebody owns the coffee shop, the office, the apartment building down the street, and it's making them rich. The truth is, real estate has created more millionaires than any other asset class in history. And the absolute best part? You don't already need to be a millionaire to get started.
So here is the wealth ladder we're climbing today. 1. Your first real estate investment. 2. Maximizing income and capital. 3. Commercial and niche markets. 4. Becoming a real estate mogul. And 5. The institutional endgame. Okay, section 1, your first real estate investment. You know, getting started often happens almost by accident. Imagine you're splitting rent, your roommate leaves, and instead of letting the landlord find a replacement, you handle it. You end up charging the new roommate a little extra, maybe making $100 to $200 a month in profit. That's just subletting. But soon you realize you should actually own the place. So you make a down payment on a small duplex, live in one unit, and rent out the other. Suddenly, the rent covers your mortgage. This strategy is known as house hacking, and it's brilliant. It isn't super expensive to start, and you're instantly turning your absolute biggest life expense, your housing, into your very first equity-building investment. Once you realize your home can make you money, it's time to evolve to level 2. You move out of that duplex, but you definitely don't sell it. Now you're renting out both units. Boom, you are officially an entry-level landlord. The real magic here is the concept of leverage. Sure, it isn't purely passive. You might have to fix the occasional leaky faucet or upgrade a fridge. But for the most part, you're getting paid while you sleep. The rent checks come in and your property is doing the heavy lifting for you. Moving right along, let's jump into section 2, maximizing income and capital. So you might notice the property down the street from yours is constantly buzzing with travelers. That's because they're playing the short-term rental game. Traditional long-term rentals are great and steady, but short-term rentals like Airbnb can dramatically boost your cash flow. In fact, according to AirDNA data, in high-demand cities like Miami, Austin, or Lisbon, short-term rentals are generating 2 to 3 times more monthly income than regular long-term rentals. Of course, the trade-off is the effort. You're trading that long-term tenant stability for higher turnover, cleaning fees, and the occasionally annoying 11 p.m. message asking for the Wi-Fi password. But if you get the location and experience right, it is highly lucrative. Now, to really scale without constantly needing to save up new capital, we look at the BRRR strategy. First, you buy a worn-down house below market value. You renovate it to increase its appeal. Then you rent it out. Now, because it looks better and is actually generating income, the property is worth more. Here is the magic step. You go to the bank and refinance at this new higher value, which allows you to pull out most or all of your original cash. Then you just repeat the process. You still own the property, it's still generating rent, but you have your cash back in hand to go buy the next one. This isn't just making money, you've literally unlocked a wealth-creating system. Let's level up again to section 3, commercial and niche markets. Eventually, investors hit a ceiling dealing with residential tenants. In residential real estate, leases are short, and the landlord pays for the upkeep. But in commercial real estate, you're leasing to businesses, not individuals. We're talking 5-year contracts with automatic rent increases baked in. And in many cases, the tenant, the actual business, pays the property taxes, the insurance, and the maintenance. The true beauty of commercial spaces is that business tenants treat the property like their own, allowing you to lock in higher revenue for years at a time with significantly fewer management headaches. But the commercial space goes way deeper than just office buildings. Smart investors look exactly where others ignore, diving into unconventional specialty investments. Wealth doesn't always look like a luxury high-rise, you know? Sometimes it literally looks like a gravel lot. Take mobile home parks. Investors often just own the dirt underneath, meaning incredibly low expenses. Or look at farmland. It's quiet, stable, and consistently appreciates because, well, everybody needs to eat. There's a reason Bill Gates is the largest owner of U.S. farmland. These niches prove that unglamorous dirt can be wildly predictable and profitable. Let's highlight one specific niche from that list: 16%. That is the staggering average annual return of the self-storage industry over the last 25 years. Why is it so high? Because it's honestly one of the easiest real estate assets to automate. Think about it. There are no tenants living on site, the upkeep is minimal, and most importantly, there are no toilets to fix. It is just pure, efficient cash flow. All right, moving into the big leagues with Section 4, becoming a real estate mogul. At this level, 1 + 1 = 11. When you finally run out of your own money, you become a syndicator. You find a massive deal, like an entire apartment complex or a mall, and you use OPM, other people's money. You do the heavy lifting, you negotiate the price, you set up the structure, you manage the property. Your investors, they just write the checks. You build equity and earn fees without putting in all the cash yourself, and they get access to massive deals without dealing with any tenants. It's an incredibly powerful multiplier effect. And for those who truly want to build an empire, you reach level 8, the developer. If the perfect property doesn't exist, you build it yourself. You start with raw dirt near a new highway, you go through the grueling process of permits and construction, and you turn it into a stadium or a massive shopping center. Pulling this off can potentially 10x your original investment once the project is finished. We aren't just talking about cash flow anymore. This is how generational wealth is secured. You're creating massive value from literally the ground up. And finally, Section 5, the institutional endgame. So at level 9, you have entities like institutional investors. These are massive funds backed by tens of trillions of dollars in capital, and they operate on an entirely different plane. They aren't looking for a single home to rent out, they are buying thousands of homes in bulk, scooping up entire neighborhoods, often before they ever even hit the public market. To the average person on the street, this just looks like a severe housing shortage. But to these institutional funds, it's a highly calculated, large-scale strategy to acquire hard assets. The mechanics of how they operate are fascinating to observe. Reports show these funds are not afraid to make very aggressive buys or take on massive amounts of debt. Why? Because they operate with what analysts describe as zero consequences. They know that if they fail, or if the market crashes, their collapse would severely destabilize the entire financial system. Because of this, it's widely understood that they operate with the safety net of a guaranteed government bailout. The traditional rules of risk simply do not apply at this level. Which brings us to the ultimate summary of this final stage. When you reach this level of the wealth ladder, real estate is no longer about monthly cash flow or covering a mortgage. It is about power. It's about massive capital, achieving absolute market dominance, and literally shaping the very landscape of where people live and work. We've definitely covered a lot of ground in this explainer today, haven't we? Going from subletting a spare bedroom all the way up to the trillion-dollar strategies of global institutions. It truly is a strategic roadmap for transforming a single home into a diverse and powerful financial empire. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Will you stay at level 1, or are you ready to take these structured insights and start climbing the ladder to build your own empire? Until next time, keep learning and keep building.